Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wa man ahsanu qawlan mimman da'a ila Allahi wa amila salihan wa qala innani minal muslimin. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. I welcome all of you with the Islamic greetings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May peace, mercy and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be on all of you. And I hope you had a good lunch. And inshallah, we'll try and catch up with the 45 minutes or 50 minutes that we are behind schedule. Now we go to the next session, that is the objectives of the International Dawah Training Program. Hope all the participants have got these notes. And as mentioned to you in the rules and regulations, this is a point form note where I have given a serial number to each of the objectives, so that if you want to know from where I'm reading, you can go to that point directly. Before I start every point, I will mention the number. What you have to do is pay attention more on me than read the notes. But if you want to jot some points so that you're with me, I'll be mentioning the point number before I start the point. So that if you want to mention some examples or if there are some details, it will be easier for us to be on the same wavelength. Point number one, there are 5 categories of Muslims as far as the field of Dawah is concerned. The first is Muslims who never do Dawah. Before we go into the details, I assume that most of the participants are aware what Dawah is. If not, then you have to wait for the next day, inshallah. First category is Muslims who never do Dawah. The second category is Muslims who are forced to do Dawah due to circumstances. Muslims who do Dawah when they are criticized and attacked about their religion. The third category is Muslims who do Dawah when the opportunity arises. For example, when someone asks questions about Islam. The fourth category of Muslims, as far as Dawah is concerned, are part-time da'is. Those who look for opportunities to deliver the message of Islam to non-Muslims. And the last category are full-time da'is, those whose mission of life is Dawah and who are involved on a full-time basis in conveying the message of Islam. So basically, as far as Dawah is concerned, there are 5 categories. Muslims who never do Dawah, Muslims who are forced to do Dawah when they're criticized. The third category I also call as spare time da'is. Spare time da'is means when they ask questions and they're forced to do Dawah, so they do Dawah, or only at their leisure time. The fourth category is part-time da'is, and the fifth is a full-time da'is. And let me tell you, what do I mean by full-time da'is? If anyone says, I'm a full-time doctor, or a full-time engineer, or a full-time businessman, or a full-time da'i, it means that most of his time during the day is spent for that activity. Usually, it is more than 75%. Usually. So, when you say you're a full-time businessman, that means most of your time of the day, if you work for X amount of number of hours, and normally people spend about 8-9 hours in the office, working for about 7 to 7.5 hours a day, average. They may spend about 8 to 9 hours. So if you say you're a full-time businessman, so you have to give out more than 8 hours a day, or at least more than 7 hours. If you say you're a full-time da'i, you should spend more than 75% of your time, or at least 7 to 8 hours a day doing Dawah. This training program, the previous one we had, and as many of you may be aware, that this International Dawah Training Program, what we are conducting in 2016, is after a span of 16 and a half years. Before that, I had conducted many programs. But me personally, as a full-time course, I'm conducting after 16 and a half years. Last time I conducted this training program, 16 and a half years back in 1999, in that program too, the majority of the participants were Malaysians. And some of you have mentioned that Brother Zakir was here. That time, the course was meant for 4th and 5th category. So if you see the old notes, 4th and 5th category, part-time and full-time Dai. This course is exclusively for full-time Dais. Now, Abu Shah is always likes to be unique and intelligent. He said in his introduction that he is full-time businessman and full-time Dai. According to me, it's not possible unless you are half-baked or a spare time full-time, or unless you spend more than 16 hours a day. And normally my schedule, I spend about 17 hours a day in the office and removing the time for salah, lunch break and all, it is more than 14 hours. In that case, if I had spent maybe 8 hours for one profession, 8 hours for Dawah, I could have called myself 2 in 1. But normally when I mean by the word full-time, it doesn't mean 100%. It can. For example, if you say that 7 hours or 8 hours is pure Dawah, then on average I spend about 14 hours, so I'm double full-time. So when I mean full-time, it means that the major time you spend in the day, the major portion, a normal person, human being, sleeps for about 7 to 8 hours. And he works for approximately, as I said, pure 7 to 8 hours. So if you say you're a full-time in one particular profession, then you have to spend at least 7 to 8 hours a day. If you do anything below that, it can either be a part-time or a spare time. I would like to know, some of you I'm aware of, from here, I believe that some are already full-time, some would like to become full-time. I would like to know that how many already are spending more than 7-8 hours a day doing Dawah at present. Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Already spending 7 to 8 hours. Raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. So out of 19, we have 5 people who are already spending more than 7 hours or major portion of the time doing Dawah. And I would say these people are actually full-time Dais. How many people intend, besides these 5 people, intend after doing this course? If you are studying, it's understood that you're studying for Dawah. Suppose someone is going to university. If it's Islamic university, so it's understood that he's spending part-time and gaining knowledge to become a Dai. So he would come into the future case. 5 out of 19, I would like to know that from the balance 14, though the interview was taken, how many intend to be a full-time Dai after this course? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. MashaAllah. So that makes it 100%. So we're on the same wavelength. This training program is not meant for 4th category. It was previously. This training program, one of the objectives, it's only for those who would want to be full-time Dais. The reason is that time I had more time, now I have less time. So we want to take the cream, the best. We want to have the creme de la creme, the best. So that inshallah we are more effective. So this training program is only meant for those Muslims who are or would like to be full-time du'at. This course per se. There are other objectives, which I'll come to later on. Point number 3. This Dawah training program will not provide you with all the knowledge required for Dawah. Please note this very clearly, point number 3. The reason we are going through the objectives is that some people may have come with a preconceived idea or notion, which most of it may be correct, some may be false. So many people think that, okay, once I do this training, khalas. After that, I don't require any knowledge. For your information, I'm yet a student and will inshallah always remain a student of knowledge. Point number 3, this Dawah training program will not provide you with all the information, all the knowledge required for Dawah. Point number 4, it is not a knowledge-based program, but rather a technique-based training program. I'll repeat, it's not a knowledge-based training program, but it is rather a technique-based training program. So even those people who are already full-time dais and maybe having sufficient knowledge would yet benefit because it is a technique-based program. We have had training programs only for graduates of University of Medina. All of them bachelors, some of them masters, some of them PhDs. But at the end of the program, they are multiple times more beneficial. They are multiple times more effective as compared to what they were, though they spent about 7 years, 8 years, 10 years, 15 years. The previous training programs I conducted, there were even PhDs from Medina University who did the training. They had the knowledge. But after the training, they were multiple times more effective in conveying the message of Islam. Point number 5. However, the basic bare minimal knowledge and understanding of Islam and other religions that is required during the initial stages of Dawah will be provided during the course of the training. The bare minimal. That means once you do the course, the knowledge given here would be the bare minimal. With that also you can do Dawah. But to excel, you will have to gain more knowledge. But the basics will be taught, inshallah. Point number 6. Sources of material for further knowledge will be provided. Point number 7. Special emphasis will be given to the following: techniques of public speaking, structure and content of Islamic talks, techniques of handling the question and answer session, and debating skills. Emphasis would be paid on these particular points. Point number 8. We expect all participants to become Islamic orators and give public talks on Islam and comparative religion at a local, national, or international level. We expect that each and every participant, after he finishes the training program, he would give Islamic talks at a local level, national, or international level. And if they're already involved in giving lectures at a local, national, or international level, inshallah, we expect them to be multiple times better. And I was observing, while you were giving your introductions, mashallah, the selection made by Brother Kaleem from the several hundred applications is alhamdulillah good. I was actually judging Kaleem that did he do a good job or not. So I told him before I started, so far it is good, alhamdulillah. One thing is that when you take an interview, you come to know something which is maybe shallow and something which is in-depth. So one judgment in interview is something which you can judge at a low level. But later on you realize that was superficial. The depth of that person you realize later on. So far I told him, alhamdulillah, it's a very good choice, alhamdulillah. Point number 9. We expect participants to become future trainers for Dawah training programs, inshallah. That besides you giving public lectures, we also expect you to become future trainers so that you could also produce or inshallah train more dais. As far as these first 9 points are concerned, does anyone have any query? Any questions regarding the objectives? The first 9 points we covered in the objectives. Does anyone have any questions regarding these objectives? Crystal clear? MashaAllah. When there are no questions, it means 2 things. Either everyone understood everything or didn't understand anything. So that we come to know later on. Inshallah. Yes, brother, you have some questions.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. My question is there any specific level of knowledge that we need to gain for this particular program that will make us effective da'is?
If I understood your question correctly, that do you have to have certain level of knowledge to be effective da'is? The minimum, as I said, that Dawah is a great field and no one can say that he has got all the knowledge. But the bare minimal required for a person would be covered in this course. Bare minimal means if you have this knowledge, yet mashallah you can convey the message of Islam to many people. And what are the basics we'll be discussing. So that's the reason when I talk about Christianity, I'll be talking about basics. When I talk about Hinduism, I'll be talking about basics. All this will be covered during that session. So what basic is required? Inshallah. But to do this course, one of the criteria that we were checking when the applications came, number one, as was mentioned in the form, is fluency in English. Since this program is in English, fluency is important. Though we did compromise because we wanted different nationalities and we wanted the training program to be international. So we did compromise on the English depending upon the nationality. But if we had from the same nationality, then but naturally the person speaking better English has more chances. Point number two, we also checked the passion the person has for doing dawah. And that was a very important factor. Though this judgment in interview is subjective. For example, one of the participants got into it because he said, if you don't take me, I'll get a heart attack. I mean, I'm a doctor. Not that I believed in it literally, but I like the passion. Okay, fine. And many a time, many of the courses that we have, whether getting admission to the school, I always check the passion. And there never has been a case, even in admission to our school, that a person who was very passionate and was consistent has not got admission. The person who's consistent shows that he has the passion, and the chances of it being correct is high, but not always 100%. Even the iman keeps on going up and down. Even the sahabas, the iman kept on going up and down, but the lowest level of iman was also very high, mashallah. Though the iman kept on going up and down depending upon the situation of the sahabas, who are the best examples after the Prophet Muhammad. But the point to be noted that even the lowest was on a very high level. So passion was one of the criteria that we checked, which is difficult to judge. And a person who's passionate, even if he knows he's not going to get, he prays to Allah and he keeps on striving. And we'll come to it later on, what is the advantage of striving. So second is passion. Third is the person having knowledge of Islam. If a person is already educated in the field of Islam, having a bachelor's degree from a very well-known Islamic institute, or a master's degree, or a PhD, that if he learns these things, the chances of him being effective is more. But if he has the degree, but is not passionate, then he would not qualify. So it was a combination of many things. But in this course, inshallah, irrespective whether you have the knowledge or not, the bare minimal, if you do your homework properly, the bare minimal required for you to be at least a da'i on a smaller level would be sufficient, inshallah. Hope that answers the question. Anyone has any other questions? As far as the first 9 points are concerned, we move on to the 10th point. Besides preparing for Islamic public talks, this training will inshallah enhance the effectiveness of dawah on an individual level by giving you more self-confidence and correct techniques. That means though this program is targeted at techniques of public speaking skills on a high level, on a public level, it will indirectly also benefit you in one-to-one dawah. That does not mean because we are targeting speaking at a public level, while you're being trained for that, indirectly, even your one-to-one dawah will become effective. I mean, people normally tell that Zakir is specialized for non-Muslims. I do agree with them to a certain level, but not completely. Yes, I am specialized in Islam and comparative religion. I am specialized. He's specially meant for non-Muslims. No. The audience that I have, more are Muslims. Peace TV is watched by 75% Muslims and 25% non-Muslims. Though my speciality is speaking to non-Muslims, I am doing islah of the Muslims that they should do dawah. So the goal is non-Muslims, but I speak to the Muslims. What I'm doing now? Am I speaking to non-Muslims now? The audience here is 100% Muslims. and more committed Muslims. So though I'm specialized in speaking to non-Muslims, I'm addressing the Muslims to speak to the non-Muslims. So the people watching Peace TV more are Muslims, 25% non-Muslims, 75% Muslims. Though my target is non-Muslim and comparative, what am I doing? I'm getting the Muslims together on a common platform. At the same time, training them how to speak to the non-Muslims. So directly I may be speaking to less of non-Muslims, but finally it reaches the non-Muslims. Alhamdulillah. So saying I'm specialized in non-Muslim is correct, but though I speak to Muslims more. The same with this training program, while you're being trained to speak on a public level, your level of speaking individually one-to-one will also enhance to a great level, inshallah.